That gives it a ton of flavor. You can also add shiitake mushrooms are a great one to add here, but these are the two things I had. So that's made a really flavorful broth, and now I'm just going to add that to a bigger pot that I'm going to finish my ramen in. So I'm going to strain this out, and sometimes I'll fish out the kombu, so I've got kombu in there, but I'm not going to this time around. Let's turn that off. So now I've got a good base for my soup. I'm going to add a little more water. And you know, the last thing in my miso soup that I'm going to add is miso. That's because I don't want to overcook my miso. If I can, I want to add it at the last minute when it's not boiling hot so that it doesn't kill all the microorganisms. But I'm going to build flavor here. So I'm going to add, I'll know what I'm going to do first. I'm going to cook some noodles first. So miso soup usually doesn't have noodles in it, but I'm going to add noodles to it just to bulk it up, and I'm going to add maybe some other vegetables to it. So this is the idea of more than just miso soup. Now for noodles, I like either soba noodles, udon noodles, or quick ramen. And because I have a gluten-free diner in my house, I'm going to use this rice ramen that I get at Costco. And so I've got this pot of water boiling over here, and I'm just going to drop one of those cakes in there and let that go and set a timer. Okay, so back to my dashi. I've got this flavorful dashi, and what I'm going to add to that now is I'm going to add some tamari soy sauce. Now, do you guys know what tamari is? So tamari is basically a gluten-free soy sauce. Because regular soy sauce that you buy in the store is usually based on soy and wheat. And sometimes it's fermented and sometimes it's not, the cheap stuff. Now, shoyu, if you buy shoyu from like this Sanji, that is wheat and soy, naturally fermented, salty soy sauce. But if you get tamari, tamari is just soybeans fermented, okay? So I get organic, because any soy products I always get organic, because soy, like corn, is heavily, a lot of pesticides, lots of Roundup and genetically engineering going on there, so I always get organic products with soy. So you can get the organic shoyu or the organic tamari if you want it gluten-free. So I added that, and then I'm also going to add, I shredded up some cabbage, and if you could also put some carrots in there. Sometimes I just use a carrot peeler and make long threads so it's like noodles. But I'm going to add some cabbage to this. Turn up my burner. And then the other important ingredient, there it is fresh ginger. This adds that really sweet, kind of pungent flavor. And I don't have an actual ginger grater, so I'm just using a grater that I use for Parmesan cheese, and I'm going to grate a bunch of ginger in there. This flavor really balances out all the heavy saltiness. I'm just going to drop it there. And my soba noodles are over there cooking still. All right. And now I'm going to add a second seaweed to this, and I'm going to use wakame. So this is Emerald Cove brand. I also like, when I'm buying seaweeds, I'm kind of careful about who I buy them from. I want them well sourced. And I like, I like Maine Coast Sea Vegetables. They did this kelp. I like Eden brand does seaweeds, and then this Emerald Cove. They've got some, and I like wakame. You know all the sea vegetables. These are superfoods. I think everyone should eat. I just put in a little sprinkling because they expand, and you want to see it. So this is the wakame. It's kind of like tea leaves. See that? So this is one little teeny tiny bit, and they're going to open up and really flower like leaves. The leaves that they are. Seaweeds are all rich in iodine and trace minerals. Wakame is great for calcium. So, when women are thinking about their bones and going through menopause, I always think of seaweeds. I also think of them for kids with, and pregnant women and nursing women who have increased nutritional needs. But frankly, we all have increased nutritional needs. We put a lot of demands on ourselves, and our soils getting more depleted means we need those really nutrient-dense foods, and seaweeds are it. But when you're thinking about bone health and alleviating menopause symptoms, I think miso is great because it has those isoflavones that are great for modulating the estrogen signals, and it's got those calcium-rich seaweeds like wakame and iodine-rich kelp, which is great for your thyroid. It's time. Okay, so I'm letting this cook. I don't want to cook my cabbage that much. I just want it to soften. So I've got ginger, cabbage, wakame, and some soy sauce. And these ramen noodles, they're all ready. They cook so quickly. And I'm going to drain them off and rinse them. Be right back. Okay. And I'm going to pop them in. And I just did one cake of those noodles because I wanted noodles in there. I didn't want it to be overwhelmed by noodles, but you can decide what you want here. But I got a noodle request from my daughter. All right. So the last step in this is going to be to add my miso. And it's just this paste. If you haven't used this, a lot of us are introduced to miso soup when we go to like a sushi restaurant or some other Japanese place and we get it. And sometimes you can buy these in a packet in like instant miso, and that can be great for like camping or if you're on the go. But the paste is the way to go. So I'm going to get about a tablespoon, and what I'm going to do is just take off some of this broth and put it in a bowl. Maybe this isn't the right way to do it, but this is how I was taught to do it. All right, you see this? So I have this spoonful of miso, and I'm just using, I'm going to make a mess doing this, but I'm just going to smoosh it around with the other, like a little sandwich between my two spoons, and I'm going to do that underwater. Oh, I'm boiling, this is great. And I'm just going to smush that paste. And it's starting to thicken. And now all that paste is off. And you can see it's just a really thick miso base here. And I'm going to continue smooshing that miso until it's in suspension. Because really, miso is in suspension in your soup. If you've had it like in a restaurant in a bowl, they'll come deliver it to you. And it's like you've got sort of clear broth with this sort of miso granules that can sink to the bottom. And you sort of stir it up with your little flakes of wakame and maybe little chunks of tofu in it. There we go. So that paste is mostly dissolved. I'm going to add a little more of this broth. Great. And I think I'm going to turn this off now. I think that's cooked enough. Do you see how quick this is? Yeah, I'm making a nourishing, fresh, homemade soup in the amount of time it takes to do a YouTube video. I mean, except for the dashi, which I stuck on a little bit earlier, but honestly, I could have just thrown some kombu in there and said, oh, maybe I won't do the bonito flakes. But really, you just make a tea with the bonito flakes. You don't have to infuse them all day. Okay, so here's my miso. And now I've taken my soup off the boil. I'm just going to dump this dissolved miso paste in. Look at that. And if you want, you could get your whisk out and sort of whisk it up. Get you up here so you can see what I'm doing. Pull you in a little closer. There. I'm just going to mix this up and serve it. Okay, check this out. There's not much to see. It's just a brown soup with some cabbage. But it's, it's brilliant. It's going to taste really salty. You can see the ramen noodles and the cabbage in there and the wakame. And I love this. If you didn't have noodles in it, or probably my kids, you can serve this alongside some sticky rice. Maybe if you had some tofu, I do have tofu in there. You could cut up some tofu and float some tofu in there to add a little more protein. So you've got a little protein in there, you've got the nice miso and some good vegetables, nutrient-dense seaweeds in there. You've got some good carbohydrates in your ramen. So, you know, you could pour it over some rice and serve it with that. I just think this is a great soup to have. It's also a great soup, maybe without all the veggies and noodles, to make for someone who's sick, right? Because you get a lot of immune boosting. I could cook that with a little bit of reishi mushroom, just a little bit of reishi mushroom, and astragalus when I make my dashi to put some immune boosting herbs in there. Of course, I'm grating a lot of ginger in there, which is so good when you're sick. And it's a nutritious broth that you can give to sick people. All right, so I hope that was useful to you. So remember, you're gonna go out and buy some organic miso, see what the other ingredients are besides soybeans in there. If you need it to be gluten-free, make sure it's gluten-free. You're gonna get some organic shoyu or tamari. Remember, tamari is the gluten-free one. You're gonna get some seaweeds, some wakame. If you don't have wakame, if it's hard to find, you could tear up bits of nori and float nori in there too. Remember nori sheets? That's what you get to roll up sushi or rice balls with. And sometimes you can just get the little bits that are sold for snacks. I think Costco has those. You're always going to have kombu to make your dashi and also to cook your beans with in any of your soups because kombu adds so much flavor to things. Yeah, and then if you want, you can get noodles, the gluten-free ramen, or I like soba noodles in there. These are great. They're half buckwheat and half wheat noodles. You can get 100% buckwheat. Those are a bit trickier to cook with. And that's it. I hope you make this. Leave me a note in the comments if you have other ideas or other inspirations to add to your miso soup. Thanks for watching. Bye.